Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your agent of, your master of mystical arts and martial arts. In fact, he might be studying the Eight Drunken Immortals as we speak. But be that as it may, this is the second take because my sainted mother came in. And remember when Wayne's mom walked through when he was broadcasting Wayne's World? Wayne's World, Wayne's World. I'm good enough to do your wash your underwear, but I'm not good enough to be on Wayne's World. Wayne's World. I'm glad you have a firm grasp on our relationship, Mom. So that's today is live action Thursday, which is our live action series. We're doing 3 more episodes, and I thought one of them was out of order, but turns out IMDb just put it at the bottom for some reason. So before we get too much further into this, please like, share, subscribe. And by the way, I already mentioned you interrupting me, sainted mother. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell if you want to see more content daily. All right, let's get into it. All right, we are in the middle of campaign season. This episode was aired December 23rd, 1966. So we're headed for 1967. The year is almost over. Frank Scanlon is, of course, running for DA again. Apparently doesn't have any higher ambitions, but that's all right. However, there is foul play afoot. This is Jack Starkey there, played by William Phipps as Bill Phipps. He's planted a bomb, of course. And this poor guy here who's going to drive something over because Scanlon needs to take a phone call to shore up his support in the 2nd or 3rd or 10th district, one of those. And he says, okay, I'll see you in a bit. He will not. Kaboom! And it is May the Best Man Lose. And as we know, when you see this...
Another challenge for the Green Hornet. His aide, Kato, and their rolling arsenal, the Black Beauty. On police records, a wanted criminal.
So, May the Best Man Lose. This is a really good episode. It's just... So, the Hornet and Kato pick up old Mr. Starkey and say they want to horn in on what's going on. And then they throw him out because he's a small fish. So, he calls up Casey and says... in the middle of a press conference while Jack is accusing the other DA, who is Calvin Ryland, of putting out a hit on our favorite DA, Frank Scanlon. Calvin was portrayed by Harold Gould, who I want to say, he looks very familiar to me, though. Let's see what else he was in. He was in Patch Adams? All right. Master of Disguise, Freaky Friday from 2003. He was very active. For a long time. He did voiceover work too. Get Smart Again, which you can see on Tubi. We'll be getting to Get Smart at some point in time. In fact, that could be a good book review. Anyway, that's here's our two, Frank and his opponent, who are not enemies. They're opponents. I mean, back then your political opponents didn't hate each other, but they hadn't given them a reason to. So, and there's Calvin's, I want to say his little brother. He looks younger, played by Lyndon Childs. See what old Lyndon was in. Dr. Mabuse, Christmas. He looks very young. Yep, known for The Green Hornet, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mystic Tales of Nicholas Winter. Boy, that was The 1,001 Lives of Dr. Mabuse. Mabuse? I don't know. It looks like Mabuse, but never been into those movies. Boy, he's in Frasier. All kinds of interesting things. Rawhide, The Wizard of Baghdad, The Aquanauts. Anyway, so these, I would assume he's the younger brother, but they look almost, Frank stands up for old, pardon me, Calvin, and he's grateful. There's we do get some great shots. Well, we get Kato fighting, but unfortunately, once again, it's in the dark, and you don't because of that black outfit and the way it's lit. Sadly, this was directed by Alan Reisner, and so the Green Hornet has now find out that Calvin's responsible. So he tells Frank, who wants to arrest him, he's like, "Can't do that, and we have no proof," because Calvin has turned uh, his opponent there. Calvin has said that Frank's has not captured the Green Hornet, the deadliest criminal in all of whatever city they're in. Not Gotham, maybe Metropolis. Dun dun dun. He'd have run into Big Blue then. That would have been short work. So Starkey Lee takes. Well, it ends up with a double cross, and the little brother is telling the big brother, "Look, I caught him for you." And then, of course, the bomb. There's a bomb. There's always a bomb. It's set to go off at 12:02, but the Hornet's ahead of him. He expected the double cross and said, this isn't how we planned it. Didn't you tell him?" Because he pretended that Calvin was in on it. But fortunately, Calvin has Hobbs as a conscience, and we get some more fights here from Kato. So, geez, and little brother is a wuss. Warren is his name. Tries to run out. Kato just beats the stuffing out of all the henchmen. In fact, I think look at that. And then Calvin grabs his brother and puts him in a hammerlock. Got you in a hammerlock. What you gonna do about it? Well, nothing. All right then. And they just leave. And Calvin says, "I can't, in good conscience, run the race. So vote for Frank, and that's it." And unfortunately, of course, Mike can't figure out what's going on because he never can. And they just laugh at him. They're like, "Yeah." All right, so now we're on our next episode. Let's have a little more sound effect here.
The Green Hornet is really Britt Reed, owner-publisher of the Daily Sentinel.
And the owner of whatever that radio or television station was. So this is supposed to be midnight, and that's obviously not even close. This is this episode is. Let me get rid of this one here. Close tab. The Hornet and the Firefly, which was, let's get that. So there have been a string of arson attempts going on here. So the Hornet's out there. There we go. That is a lovely title. I mean, that's just great. It's evocative and memorable. This, of course, was December 30th, 1966. This is the one that IMDb has listed as episode 26. We don't know. He seemed like a nice young man. So the council meeting, Scanlon says, show up as Britt Reed. Like he's got an issue with the identity crisis. So there they are. And Mike brings in, is that Ben Wade? I think so. I forget. Let me look here. This scenes from this were used in the Green Hornet movie, which you'll see, and the original air date. Yeah. So, okay, Ben Wade. Yep. So that's Ben Wade, played by Gerald S. O'Laughlin, and he's been dismissed from the city because he's got an eye injury and he can't do anything. He wants a desk job, but he's going nuts. There's Gary, the voice of You Know Who, Roger Ramjet, of course. Sorry, Lilith. And there's a firebug. He's in a suit, fire suit. And he lights fires. And this just made me think of Police Squad. But they meet him coming out, and Kato beats him up, but doesn't beat him up enough. And he drops Kato, which is not going to make him feel good. But they rescue the one guy, and then you get the explosion. I'm sorry, Lucy, it's an explosion. It's like explanation. By the way, go and subscribe to GD Explanations. It's a great channel. And he comes home, and guess who's waiting for him? Mike, who is disappointed. They're lifelong friends. And Mike's like, you got to be kidding me, man. Really? So he pulls the gun on Mike and ties him up and puts tape over his mouth. The only way to get Mike to be quiet. And now they can't find Mike. So they're like, no, I've called his apartment. He hasn't been home. Look at those. This guy knows his chemicals. Why couldn't he find a job? Supervillains just don't think things through. So Britt shows up. He lets him in. Says he hasn't heard from Mike, but Britt pretends like he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, well, you're hired. I want you to do this. And then he takes Mike with him because he's going to frame Mike as the firebug. He's not called that, but what else would he be? Nice shot of the Black Beauty in broad daylight. And Mike even gets in some action here. He's not useless because he gives him a karate kick to get the gun out of his hand and then gets knocked out because he is not. And more bombs are thrown. Kato beats up the firebug, and they leave the firebug to die in the inferno. But Mike asks Britt not to identify him as the firebug. He says he deserves more. That's a good friend. He knows his friend was not right mentally. So kudos to you, Mike. Kudos. And now our final episode is another good one. These are all good episodes. All the villains have motivation as to why they're doing what they're doing. They think they're right, even though they're not. It's like a heel in wrestling always has a beef with somebody, even if he's wrong. We all know he's wrong. He'll never admit it, but he's wrong. But he thinks he's right. So these guys. So we start out at a military preserve. Having been near one in Camp Pendleton, it was interesting to see these guys rolling around.
His dual identity known only to his secretary and to the district attorney.
This poor schlub, who's the night watchman, and I don't know who he was. Just pick one. We'll call him Harvey Perry as Bill. They steal it. He tries to stop him by shooting him, and of course that goes nowhere because he's shooting a tank with a BB gun. He brought a BB gun to a tank fight. But I'm sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. So I'll go back here. Seek, Stalk, and Destroy, directed by George Wagner, who did many Batman episodes and spelled his name every time with the 2 capital G's in the middle. Go figure. I mean, they're using a font there where everything's not capitalized, but the 2 G's. I just wanted to point that out because we will be getting to a Batman episode or two before ere long. And here's their one of their interstitials, which is a nice bright yellow color, which I don't think flatters the line of the olive drab green of the Hornet, but what do I know? Mike says that the Hornet stolen the tank, and Britt's like, we're not going to print hypotheses or theories. We have to have facts, even though theories are generally pretty much facts. So Mike goes and visits his old buddy there, who is that Ralph Meeker? Let me scroll down, see if I can. He's a war hero. Bradford Devlin, pardon me. Let me see, is it Bradford? Scroll down a little further. That's John Bear. He's innocent. He's accused of killing his general, and he's claimed he's innocent. They're trying to get him at least he's on death row. So they're trying to figure out who's going what and who's stolen the tank. And they figured out there's 3 other guys in his old unit who might have stolen it to try to bust him out. So the Hornet goes and pays a visit to let's see, Devlin's old war crew, Devlin, and says, "I want to exchange your captain for the tank." I like this shot though. Look at that shot though with the Kato and the Hornet in shadow. It's very artistic. So good job, George. And he says, "All right, well, we'll meet." And of course, he says he can't do it, but they follow him because he's a moron. But they realize the Hornet's following him, and they try to blow the Hornet up with the tank. And finally, they have a powwow. And Kato gets in some good licks here. Just once again, I mean, it looks like he kicks him in the crotch, but I wouldn't blame him. But please, somebody put these out on legit DVD, on legit Blu Ray. I know that physical media is not a thing anymore. At least they don't want it to be. But most of the people here, you won't have to pay them royalties. So they have their powwow. They're going to bring him Devlin. That's a great shot of Van Williams. So they tell him what's going on, but the Hornet's the bait now. Dun, dun, dun. And so there they are. But Scanlon is pretending to be Devlin. And Britt believes Devlin's innocent. So they're going at the tank. And Kato's got a bullseye, a womp rat, so to speak. Back home, and they're not in Beggar's Canyon, but they're somewhere. And he throws it in there. It's tear gas, and they come running out. And in the tussle, the guy without the leg, because what happened was the general cost him his leg, and he's the one that killed him. And then he gets shot in the tussle with the gun. He says, "I did it. I did it for Johnny." No, wait, that was the homecoming queen who had a gun. So good episode. Once again, he's got a motivation and a reason to do this. This episode was broadcast first on January 6th, 1967. And that's it. So they're kind of exonerated. I mean, they did steal government property, so they're probably going to get in trouble for that. But they should throw their dead buddy under the bus. Devlin's exonerated, and Mike's going to do not an expose, but an article with him in conjunction about his time at the war. And there he is. And he's like, no, I'm going to go out. He's been in jail for a long time, in prison. He's like, I'm going to go get some fresh air and some sun. Maybe you should take Casey with him. See what Britt thinks about that. And there's Kato, who's serving because, I don't want to say he knows his role, but he's playing a role, even though he could have wiped out everybody in there. And that's it. So there are our 3 episodes. I really enjoyed these. It's such a good series, and I'm really sorry that it didn't find its audience, especially because, what if Bruce Lee had stayed in the States, made 2 or 3 seasons of the Green Hornet? They had several 2-parters, but they were once a week as opposed to double episodes like Batman was. Until that 3rd season. We'll probably never get to review a lot of the Batman episodes. Maybe the 1st season, but there's so many of them. We'd be doing it for years. Years, I tell you. Years! Anyway, this is your humble agent. Tomorrow we will be talking about music of some kind. Don't hold me to what. I don't know at this point anymore. But I'm just not sure. Maybe we'll just do a standard 7-song Friday. Wouldn't that be fun? Until our next assignment, let's roll, Kato.
Bruce Lee as the incomparable Kato, king of Kung Fu. Van Williams as the Green Hornet. See him play the game of death. The dragon enters the den of the secret Chinese cult. Bruce Lee in his most exciting adventure. Kato, invincible against the terror of the Tong. Bruce Lee is Kato. No one can stop him. See the fury of his flying feet. Bruce Lee, in his most famous role, battles the fanatical Lo Sing in a kung fu fight to the death. Bruce Lee is Kato in The Green Hornet, coming soon to this theater.